Hi, my name is Keith Cooper, Northlight Images, and in this video I'm going to reflect on some of what I want to do in moving photography forward. That's my photography, what it means to me, by a look back at what made a difference to my photography in the past. Like many people, both with the restrictions we've had of late and general changes, you have that feeling of, well, what am I doing new in my photography? Now, I've recently just been on holiday in on the Northumberland coast in the UK. Absolute great place. I've got some nice images that I'm going to be using for testing printing, doing stuff like that, and try and make a few prints that pass that test of, do I want to put them in my home? Do I want to put them on the wall? Now, I have a curator in this, better known as Karen, my wife, who has to like the picture as well. So no problem in producing prints, making prints. It's just taking the photos to do it. I'm sure with all people get that sort of don't feel like it attitude to doing your photography. I know when I went on holiday, it took a day or two for me to get into it again. Now, that might partly because I've not used to going out as much. Work has been a lot less during the pandemic. Mind you, it's given me chances to do lots of other things, so works both ways. But anyway, let's start off with a look, for me, what made a difference in my photography over the years. Now, I'd suggest doing this for your own photography if you're at a bit of a crossroads wondering what to do. If there was something that really inspired you in the past, there's a chance it might still inspire you, perhaps in a slightly different way. So it's not just a look back and think, well, oh, that's what I did, what am I going to do now? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at some of the things that I consider have made a big difference to me. Not here is what was my darkroom upstairs. It was a proper darkroom. I mostly did black and white. That bimbled along. This was before I became a professional photographer. I did a bit of black and white. It was an interest, but it never really got going. It was the move to digital and in particular printing that made the real difference for me. But things that made a difference. The first full frame camera I got back in 2003, Canon 1DS, 11 megapixel. I still have prints that I took with it. This picture here, which is a small version, it's in Colorado, is a small version of a print I've produced from an image from that 1DS. Covers a lot of it. Not only was the image quality good enough, I can still use images from the 1DS, a mere 11 megapixel, and make good prints from them. It's the quality of the glass, obviously the photography, and what software and how you process your images. That's changed, the software side of things, but using good glass back then means that I've got images that I can still make use of. People still ask me for prints of some of these ones. Took them quite a few years ago. Second aspect of it was learning to use wide angle lenses. Now, the lens I'm shooting this on, it's on an EOS RP, is an Olympus 24mm f2.8 manual focus lens. It's really quite handy for the video. It works very well. It's on an adapter. It's great. It's a lens I used to use on my old Olympus film equipment quite often. That was wide-ish angle. What I mean by wide angle is wider than that, 16, 15, 14 millimeter. You really have to then understand the sense of space that gives you. How perspective changes, how viewpoints change, how lines, it changed composition a lot. That made a big difference to some aspects of my photography. This is before I really got into architectural photography. This would be for landscape and the likes like that. Beyond that, something that made a difference, not this particular lens, this is a EF 815 zoom fisheye lens, was getting a basic fisheye lens. And Learning to use it, learning how to process the images, an understanding of image geometry, an understanding of how the scene in front of you is projected into that little rectangle that makes up the sensor, or film as was then. Using wide angle lenses and learning how to process the images, so from normal wide angle through to fisheye. The other thing with fisheye, it really taught me about the new toy effect. This is that when you have a new toy, photographically speaking, it's great. People discover fisheye lenses, they use them, and then they get bored with them, and then they get sold second-hand. I believe my first fisheye lens was purchased second-hand, just for that reason. Somebody had had it for a bit, never used it much, got rid of it. Always worth checking second-hand kit for things like that. It helped me appreciate that just because it's new doesn't mean it's better. So you tend to find that with any new bit of kit, your usage of it, and so fisheye lens here, your usage rises sharply and then drops off. Now for some people it just drops off to nothing. I like to think knowing how to use a fisheye lens when it's useful, and it does have its uses, far more than just the fisheye look. Knowing when to make use of a lens like that is important. It becomes part of your toolkit. And this is one of the reasons of looking back. What aspects have I used in my photography that I've not really bothered with much more? Is there a reason why I've not bothered with them much more? Now, obviously a big difference happened for my photography when I got into tilt-shift lenses. This is a Canon 24mm. Once again, first one I got was second-hand. That also helps you understand space, geometry, how an image represents what's in front of you. Now, I've had a long-standing interest in landscape photography, and this fed fairly naturally into my interest in architecture, although I have had an interest in architecture, particularly old cathedrals and the likes, for a long while, predating my taking up photography professionally. In actually looking at stuff like that, it's then a matter of deciding, how am I going to use it? Now, I'm an architectural photographer, I use this, I use other lenses. So there we go, that's just an aspect of it. That feeds through, I've got loads of stuff I've done on wide angle lenses. I would say that, you know, a lot of this kit that I show, I've done reviews of, I've done articles of. For me, writing an article or a review is a key way of helping to understand how something works. If I can't adequately use a lens like this and the features on it, then I certainly can't write an article about using it. And you may have other ways of doing it, may depend on the photographs you take. I'm lucky, I enjoy writing, and recently I've started doing some of these videos as well to try and sort of, you know, show a bit of this stuff in a different format, because somebody at Canon convinced me that not everyone likes reading long articles. Whatever. It's my academic background coming out there, I'm afraid, where the attitude is you don't want to read it tough. That's materials you need to read. But apparently that's not so anymore, and I need to make hence the allowance for videos. What else made a big difference? Big prints. Now, I got my first large format printer in 2004, 2005. And that was a 44-inch printer, and making big prints. Now, there's an expense in this. There's an expense in all of photography. There doesn't need to be, but certainly if you want to do big prints, getting people to print them is expensive. Buying a printer is expensive. It needs a lot of use. But from those big prints came an understanding of editing and an appreciation of new software. I looked at changes in raw file converters. So I might have taken an image from my old 1DS, 11 megapixels, and I always kept all the raw files and all the JPEGs that came out of the camera. They're all gone into an archive. I don't delete stuff, it just goes into an archive as a sort of fallback. Stuff gets sorted as well, but everything is there in the archive. And looking at how raw file converters changed, it made me appreciate that, once again, that good source material is vital, but that even images that are not necessarily that great might at some point become a lot more amenable to working with. So you could take an image that was perhaps not quite as sharp as it should have been, that you took 15 years ago. The best software you could do then, well, yes, you could make a print that big. Now, if it's an image, if it's an important image, something that matters to you, you can comfortably maybe make a print that big or bigger. It depends. Software has changed, and it's one of those things. I use Photoshop still. I use quite an old version of Photoshop. It's getting to a point where I need to consider, what am I doing? What's my editing workflow? Now, I add in plugins and various things like that, but I really do need to have a look at this. Probably will come when I next get a new main camera, but that's jumping to the future, because this is partly about using what you've got. Another thing that moved my photography forward is colour management, an appreciation of colour management. Now, whether that be from taking shots using something like a colour checker for getting accurate colour, which is important in, say, my industrial photography and interiors and the like, or it's the colour management of making printer profiles and making prints. Colour management permeates all of my photography, and it has just generally raised the quality at all levels by having a knowledge of colour management. It's not just something you apply at the end. It can be things like setting up your monitor, using good monitors, calibrating your monitor. Now, this monitor is actually calibrated to a very unusual colour temperature. It's calibrated to 4000K. Now that's a very low colour temperature, and I would never edit on this monitor, but it happens to match the lighting around here, which means that I don't need to do any special correction for this image to look okay on the video in the surroundings it's in. Now, that comes partly from my knowledge of colour management. There are lots of other little bits and pieces as well, but if you said what is a key edge to all of my photography when it runs through to printing, it's having an understanding of how to use colour management. It just helps get things right first time more often. It's not about some illusion of perfection or anything like that. It's about helping reduce the amount of mistakes you make, and when you do make mistakes, it helps you pin them down. So there you go. Now, I'm lucky in that I get lots of new kit to test. It's quite a deliberate choice, partly because I like writing, I like testing stuff, but it fires the enthusiasm. Now, you probably won't be able to just go up to manufacturers and say, oh, I'd like to borrow one of these for a bit to have a play with it. Sorry, conduct a rigorous test of it. But when it comes down to it, it's stuff that gets you out taking photos. And if you don't take any photos, or many photos, doesn't matter how good your editing is, your colour management, your printing, you're still not going to go anywhere. So you need to take more photos. And that's always, when anyone asks, they say, how do I take better photos? I say, take more photos. Look at them all and only show other people your best ones. Keep your bad ones as well. As I said, I keep all my old photos. I go through, look at them and think, okay, I was in such and such, somewhere, let's say in Colorado, taking some pictures. If I look at all the other photos I took on the day I took this particular one here, what does that say about how I approached photographing the place? Does it tell me how I was feeling that day? Probably, actually. If you look at all your photos, I've got to look at it and think, well, some of these photos aren't very good. Why did I take this picture? Is it actually any good? Was it that I've just not achieved what I wanted to achieve with it? But anyway, look back at your old stuff, all of it. So that's, in a way, sort of looking back, that gets you to where you are. And I was reading some stuff by Tom Hogan the other day, whose articles, excellent articles, always very insightful, apposite, well worth reading. And he mentioned that we, in this, that we tend to overvalue the past we tend to overvalue the future. Certainly if you look at camera rumour sites and the like, they're concentrating on the future, how great things are going to be. Dip into the forums associated with them and you will find them packed with people with big long little wish lists of what they want to do, what they want from new cameras. And I can't but help thinking that, yeah, you can do all this now. And if you say you can't, then the limitation is almost certainly your photography, not the kit you're using. In a way, this is it's an A3 plus. This is a test image, one of the test images I use for testing new papers and printers. And if with vaguely current camera kit, any camera kit almost, you should be able to produce a reasonable looking picture that size. That's A3, 13 inch by 19 inch. I'm going to say that if you can't make a decent print with the kit you've got at the moment, and this is even sort of relative consumer level kit, if you can't do that, then the problem is with you. It is with your photography, it is not with the kit. Printers are easy to use, but you need to put the effort into learning how to use them. Cameras are easy to use, but you need to put the effort into knowing what you want to take. So if your current situation is that, well, I'm not getting the results I want from the kit I've got, now unless you're using really cheap, really old kit, using an old phone, not a modern phone, unless you're doing that, then you're going to have to face it. Most problems with photographs and prints coming out wrong is entirely user-based. For myself, if I get a duff photo, it's almost certainly my fault. Very rarely can I blame anything else. It's almost certain to say it's my fault. That's where I am now looking at stuff. You've got the kit probably to be able to go out. It's just a matter of doing it. As I said in Tom Hogan's article, we overvalue the past, we overvalue the future, and we undervalue the current of where we are, what we've got. There's that desire to get something new, and it is largely pointless because you don't need it. Now, want. Of course, I would like a camera to replace this 5DS. I use it as part of my business. This one is 6 years old. It's working okay at the moment, but it's going to have at some point, it's going to run. It's paid for itself many times over. Now you could say, well, I could go and get myself a Canon R5. Well, I've tested the R5, and in the kind of work I do, it's not that much better. Certainly not several £1,000s worth much better. If this broke, then I would replace it with an R5. But I'm looking forward to what replaces this and gives a jump forward. Does that jump forward really make much of a difference? It probably won't for most work. This is 50 megapixel. Let's say I get a camera in the future that's 100 megapixel or something like that. What difference is that going to make? Well, for an image this size, none whatsoever. For some of the work I do, it will make a difference because I do some high resolution survey type photography that needs that detail. It needs real detail, not created detail as I might put in a print. The difference in real detail and created detail, take a piece of software like Gigapixel AI. I use this, it is great. I can take an image like this that I took on an 11 megapixel camera, and this is a crop as well. I can take that and I can expand it up and it will produce plausible detail that will give a great looking large print. This is one of the reasons I say you should always keep up to date with what's happening in software. Some of these new bits of software make a big difference or have the potential to make a big difference. However, for the kind of work where I'm documenting fine detail, I need to document real detail, not plausibly created detail. Now there's a subtle difference there. If you're looking at photography to show cracks in brickwork and stuff, you want real detail in it. Now that's a pretty pretty narrow usage of it, and as excuses go, not a particularly good one to replace this camera. But at some point I will replace it. Do I need new kit? Do I need new tilt shift lenses? No. I could possibly do with one around 40-50 millimeter focal length. Fair enough, Canon do a 50mm anyway. That's just going out and buying one. No, when it comes down to it, for if you're looking for what to do in your photography, it's up to you to find the challenges for it. Now, new kit, great. It often gives you that little extra bit of impetus to go out and do something. But I'm going to suggest that it's all about the present, really, because that's where you are. Go out, take more photos, enjoy doing it. Now, I've concentrated on the photography I do. Now, everybody's will be different, but look at how you got to where you are, what matters in that, what was just nice, how do you make use of that to do things now, and is stuff in the future really going to make much of a difference? Probably not. Now, that won't stop me reviewing new kit as it comes out because, well, as I've said, I enjoy playing with new toys. But put it in context. If you're having difficulty with your photography, look at what you've done, look at what you like, and do it. There has never been a better time to be able to produce high quality prints, images. We are blessed with some great kit. Quit whinging about what you want to see. Use what you've got. Yeah, you can tell I don't sell new camera kit, really, can't you? But anyway, I hope that has been of some interest and not too rambling. Have a look at some of the other videos I've done, and obviously the articles on the Northlight website. I try and do this stuff partly to help inspire people, but partly to help inspire myself, because I've been on holiday for a week, I've taken some nice photos, and now I'm thinking, yeah, okay, now what am I going to do? But anyway, have a think about it. Thanks for watching, and if you find these videos of interest, please do tell people and subscribe to the channel. I've got a new printer coming later this week, a Canon G650, a small printer, an A4 printer. Now, I don't normally look at small printers, but it'll give me a chance to play with something new, and I hope it will be of interest for people. So thank you very much. Bye.